Hi, mystery writers. Welcome. And I'm really sorry I scheduled this for the wrong time, which is late tonight. So I didn't think that would work. So I hope you all made it here. Okay, today I wanted to talk about the story in the scene because each scene is a mini story that builds your novel. And it's a building block in your story, and each scene has the same components as the main story. So there's a central character, there's an obstacle, there's a setting, there's an emotional arc, a beginning, a middle, and an end. But one more thing the scene has is it must move the story forward. I don't know if you've ever read a novel where you in a scene and you're wondering why it's there. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to avoid scenes like that today. Um, so whether you're a pantser or a planner, it doesn't matter. And if you're a planner, you can plan out the basic storyline of the scene. And as a writer, you know what the characters do and say, and they do and say unexpected things. So you have a basic structure to keep them from getting too far from the scene and disrupting the story plan. I'm not saying characters shouldn't be disruptive within the story, just make sure actions are moving the story forward and not drama for drama's sake. It's easy to get trapped like that. And if you're a pantser, don't despair. You can review your scene after you write it to check that you have covered the basic scene elements. Some pantsers wait until the first edit to check each scene. Others check the scene and then go on to the next scene. So it just depends on your style, but you do want to check to make sure that you have all the scene elements. Um, And as you review the scene, you want to check each element to keep your story from going adrift. So, first of all, who is the central character in this particular scene? It doesn't have to be the protagonist, but you write the scene from that scene character's point of view. And if you found you've jumped characters, you need to edit to keep the scene centered on that main character in the scene. And then every scene needs an obstacle, and the obstacle can be as physical as a fight to the death or as mental as trying to solve a problem. And at the beginning of the scene, the character confronts a problem, and by the end of the scene, the character has either solved the problem, won the fight, figured it out, or is defeated. And every scene needs a challenge. So you want to make sure that there's some kind of challenge to that scene's character within the scene itself. And the setting, the reader needs to know where the character is, who's in the room or on the field or on the street or wherever the action is taking place in this scene, that you need to at least let your reader know where they are. Um, the setting can contribute to the obstacle by challenging the scene's central character physically or adding an emotion overlay to the action and the dialogue. So there's lots of ways to play with the setting within the scene. And world builders need to add the special details around the characters as they speak and act. So if you have a special world, especially if it's fantasy or even historical, you want to make sure that the setting contributes to the scene story. Okay. Uh, and then you need an emotional arc, and as the central character of the scene interacts with others through dialogue and action, his or her emotional position changes. So this is really important. This is how the scene really works, is with that emotional arc. Um, And whether she overcomes the obstacle or is defeated, she'll have an emotional response to the consequences of what just happened. And the emotional arc is the key to keeping readers engaged and turning the page. And we've talked about this before, that readers need to care. And the emotional arc in the scene is how you get them to care about what's happening in each scene. And then, of course, there's the structure, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And so if you have a central character in a setting that adds to the story, faced by a challenge, you're on your way. All right. And by the time the character has wrestled the challenge, the middle, and either won or lost, the end, you've walked your scene through the structure. So this is just a great way to check your scenes because scenes need to add to the story and move it forward. So, of course, the final evaluation for your scene is how does it move the story forward. So, once your scene is complete, you need to take a look at how it fits into that overall big story picture. And if it's an info dump about the story, you'll need to tighten it up by integrating the information into other parts of the story. And if it's a cute scene or a big fight, you still need to review how the scene moves the story forward. I know this is a challenge often for beginning writers. They fall in love with a scene, like a cute scene, and they really want to keep it in the story, but it doesn't really add to moving that story forward. And you can think in your head that, oh, well, I'm developing my character. But even as you're developing your character, especially in a mystery, you really want to make sure that you're moving the story forward. So we're not writing literary novels, we are creating a puzzle for our reader. So every scene needs to add to the puzzle and add to the challenge of your sleuth solving that puzzle. So even if the scene is the best writing you've ever done, it still needs to move the story forward. And every writer learns to put their darlings aside, if not outright kill them. So you can save expository information and sprinkle it into other scenes. It's a lot easier for your reader to understand that exposition if you dribble it in small bits. If you have a whole scene that's all about the setting or all about a backstory, um, it's easy to lose your reader because they don't understand how this all fits into the story. Uh, so you'll need your editor's hat. You really need that editor's hat, that left brain side that looks critically at your writing, um, to make sure that the scene is doing the job, which is moving the story forward. Okay, I hope that helps. And if you have any questions about scene writing, please uh, leave them in the comments. I think scenes are so critical. They are the building blocks of our stories, and we build our stories scene by scene. That's how it works. Okay, thank you. And share your progress in the group. And I will see you next week.